Hello and welcome to some patch notes for the hero's journey, right? This is the first video I've done on this, and I saw the patch notes and I was like, all right, I gotta talk about this because these are some good changes. I've been disenchanted with playing games lately, but these changes are probably gonna give me a second wind. So these came out yesterday, June 12th, it looks like. There's some other patches before here, but we're just going to start with June 12th. So this is in the Hero's Journey Discord in the change logs section if you want to see where this is. So new feature, character select overhaul. Use the character slots to create more than 12 characters. Organize those characters into character sets. What? 24 character slots and 2 sets initially available, up to 12 additional slots and 3 additional sets available for EOM unlocks. The additional slots and sets will become available in future as gameplay and events. So I have no idea what this actually means, besides now you can have more than 12 characters, so you can have 24 characters. And 2 sets. Now, maybe sets lets you share items or something between them. I don't know, but I'm not going to speculate, but that sounds very cool. New feature, dispel suppression. So instead of getting dispelled now, the buff will be dispelled or suppressed for 36 seconds. So you don't lose buffs anymore. They just become inactive, which may or may not be nice. I don't know. I know I get dispelled, by stuff early on, but once you get later in the game, dispel doesn't really do much. But early on, I think this will be nice, a feature, because you won't have a junk buff or anything like that. So it'd be kind of cool to see how that actually plays out. Heroic strength contribution to auto attack damage now has diminishing returns over 100. So that is a nerf. Because before I believe it was uncapped. Heroic Dex now directly scales bow damage. Spell effects not cast from spell gems no longer can incorrectly inherit the heroic intelligence or wisdom bonus you were casting from a spell when the spell gem occurred. All right, so that's an interesting change. I don't even know how to understand that. Spell effects not cast from spell gems. All right, so clickies no longer incorrectly inherit your heroism or intelligence bonus as if you were casting it. So I'm assuming that means clickies are no longer affected by items that you're wearing. Spell effects from AA's abilities, not procs or combat skills, will now receive heroic bonus and wisdom bonuses, heroic intelligence and wisdom. So that is pretty nice. The darkness line of dot spells, snare, it's the Shadow Knight Necromancer snare, will now apply their dot if they're immune to speed changes. That is nice. That's an extra magic based dot for both those classes. Debuffs on non-pet NPCs are now tracked with precision timers, so that their full duration is applied regardless of tick timing. Now that's pretty nice. So debuffs are now tracked better. Let's see here. Warrior Rage of the Ralos Zek now has a fixed duration of exactly 12 seconds and is unaffected by buff extension effects or server tick timing. Very nice. Bloodlust now has a fixed duration of 24 seconds, is unaffected by buff extension or server tick timing. This is pretty cool because there's the Bloodlust builds that use these 2 abilities now, Bloodlust and Ralos Zek. That allows your weapons to proc every time you swing. So every swing you get a proc, so you can do interesting things with that. Necromancers now have access to inherent dot critical chance, similar to wizards inherent crit DD chance. This is separate from roll from the primary crit roll fails and not affected by any source of crit. So that's nice. That's a buff to necromancers for sure. Wizard inherent spell criticals now use the player's critical spell damage instead of a lower randomized value. They also now print a message critical, informing the player the ability triggered. Nice. See here, Ranger increased minimum archery damage. Bard increased spell song damage, so dot spell, so the chants, if you will. All right, so this is the one that got my my pickle ready. So Rogue, the sneak attack line, sneak attack, thieves vengeance, the assassin strike, keep strike, is now usable during other disciplines and provides a 12-second buff with the original effect rather than the discipline lockout. All right, so when we play Hobbs, we're cooking keep strike all the time, but we get locked, right? We can't do like duelist plus keep strike. Now this allows us to do that, so that's one change that's really nice. Now this one right here, this is it right here. Backstab will now use either your primary or secondary weapon, whichever will produce more damaging backstab. Holy cannolis! That is a pickle razor right there. That is like 3 pickles. That is insane. So this allows us to not have to primary use a rogue weapon. This will allow us to offhand, the rogue weapon, and main hand, say the Shadow Knight, or if you're a paladin weapons in the main hand, which are vastly superior melee weapons compared to the rogue stabbers. So that is absolutely fantastic change, and I several claps for the devs for that one. That is going to be crazy to see what we can do with Hobbs now. Like this is going to be crazy because that changes all the itemization for the main hand from 1 all the way to 65. So definitely something to think about there. The sneak attack line is a fixed duration, is no longer extendable. All right, so that's nice. UI map filter is no longer its own unique window, rather than integrates with the existing map window. All right, I'm not 100% sure. I use that custom UI. I don't think it ever gets updated, so I don't know. See here, the jeweler in the bazaar is practicing enchanting and now can enchant enchanted platinum bars for a modest fee. I mean, another clap. So this was one of my biggest issues about going into Soul Self-Found. Is if you play a Shadow Knight, or I think there's another class that needs a platinum bar. All right, I know you can use the faction cheat to skip some of the faction in the Shadow Knight epic, but you are still needing a second bar. Yeah, there's always a second bar required to get the unholy sheath, or whatever the hell it is. And this will allow you to not have to race change to an enchanter to do anything, and that is fantastic. So that is great. Another one, the Burrower event spawn timers have been greatly reduced. So this was like, you going in there, you're gonna spend an hour doing that event, and that is fantastic. All right, a number of NPCs in the FV have had their dialogue fixed and will accept multiple spell swap turn-ins simultaneously. That is fantastic. It was honestly kind of tedious to turn in spells one by one, so that is very nice. All right, we got some bug fixes here. Wake of the Dead style abilities. Wake of the Dead, Army of the Dead, Necropotence, Shadow Curse no longer create pets, which can cast Fear, Gate, Shadow Step, Charm, or other problematic spells. Necropotence and Shadow Curse now create pets based exclusively on the corpse of the mob that triggered them. All glamour weapons are now primary as secondary. All glamour bows and throwing are ranged only. All glamour shields and miscellaneous are secondary only. Familiar buffs now correctly stack with other spells, notably Zombie Bunny and HP buffs. This does not affect if the focus stack effect stacks, but if the buff itself will stick. Spell Gem 1 is no longer disabled when using /cast. An Undead Knight in the Temple of Soul role will now responds to the correct text. Guardian of the Forest will no longer spawn Oh, Guardian of the Forest will no longer be a permanent buff at rank 1. Rev the Mysterious will now allow other heroes to join the encounter without delay. A Goblin Captain should now drop the quest item required to complete the Trent Fist. What? I have no idea what that is. Like, some crazy stuff here. This server's like totally custom, so I don't know. Corrected various loading screen typos, and updated with newer changes. Adjusted dialogue for reaching the 7th hammer. The Staff of the Wheel quest piece in the High Pass will no longer spawn out of bounds. Precision timers now correctly fade on buffs in their tooltips at specific times. Optimized communication of buff timers remaining sent to the client, so buff timers on the clients matches the server with precision timers. Fixed quest ground spawns in Kithagor Forest, no longer to be out of reach of players. Bonus loot is no longer tracked for Saru when players do not actually engage with his encounter, and exploit certain mechanics to have him start at a lower HP total. Mobs should now more reliably choose a path home when they lose their way. Fixed incorrect damage calculation for bows at certain level breakpoints. Barter buyer should now work across zone shards. And then, let's see here, we got a little note here. Buffs are now suppressed for 36 seconds instead of being removed when dispelled. Suppressed buffs will return when suppression expires and cannot be recast until then. This is sad face on the mob that dispels you constantly in Sanctus Saru. All right, so these are some nice changes. I'm really happy with these. And then there's a lot of other changes that I've never really done any videos on these, but you can see here, Doppelgangers got buffs at some point in time since I've been paying attention to this. A lot of other changes here, hotfixes and stuff like so. Definitely, these patches deserve a pickle. Is there a pickle emoji? There is. There we go. We give them a pickle. All right, so let's go over here to announcements. What's going on here? So server's back up. We have a 50% experience going on. So there you go. Very nice. So that is, the current change log for the hero's journey. I'm going to start doing these videos, I think. At least for myself, I can read these and post the video. And I know a lot of people watch the videos and stuff like that. We'll give this one a pickle too. All right, pickle. Oh, it's a cucumber, but it looks like a pickle. Pickles are cucumbers. There's too many reactions. All right, well, I mean, eggplant is so it's overplayed. All right, but there we go. So good changes all around. This is kind of getting me a little excited to go play OBS. I think I'm gonna go make a video right now. So thank you very much for watching, and please have a fantastic day.